Right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. Could Roman Abramovich lose Chelsea Football Club? Could it be seized as an asset? Has he got any affiliations with Mr. Putin? What would happen to Chelsea Football Club should it be removed from the ownership of Roman Abramovich? What's going to happen? What's being said? Well, we're going to hopefully get through a lot of that today. I'm going to go through a lot of that today. Certainly very interesting. We're also going to reflect on Roman Abramovich's ownership and what he's actually done as a owner that we've seen tangible evidence of in front of us. Settle in, get comfortable. Please do drop a like. It means a lot. It takes a second to click a like and subscribe. So thank you all for doing that should you choose to do so. Right, so obviously the world's in a turbulent place. I'm not going to get too political. This is a football channel. All I can tell you is I don't endorse war. I don't want war. It's desperately sad. It makes me desperately sad. Though I only know the basics of the political climate of what's going on. The landscape, it seems pretty basic to me, and it makes me sad. Anyway, so Roman Abramovich, Chelsea owner, Russian oligarch, known to probably do some maybe shady stuff, allegedly. Theoretically, speculatively, people think that from perhaps after the fall of the Soviet Union. Ultimately, the dude's a Russian billionaire. So, some may say that all billionaires have skeletons in their closet. Off the bat. But the thing is, what we know as Chelsea fans from Roman Abramovich so far has been pretty darn good. He has invested an incredible amount of money into Chelsea, not looking to make money out of Chelsea Football Club, only looking to have a successful football club. He's made incredible losses, but he's also built a sustainable machine in Chelsea Football Club. I think we won the most amount of trophies in English football since his arrival in the English footballing landscape. He has done a lot of good. Remembering over the first stages of the pandemic, he didn't do any forms of wage deductions from any of his staff. He opened up Chelsea Hotel for the NHS staff to sleep in. He did a vaccination centre at Stamford Bridge. He did a profound amount of work with charity work. I remember pundits, broadcasters speaking on Talk Sport and other radio shows and live TV shows saying Roman Abramovich is essentially leading the way in terms of setting a positive example for football club owners. And he's not even perhaps an English one, not that should potentially matter, but there's a lot, these were English broadcasters talking about their English clubs in England, and it took a Russian oligarch to actually set a good example. Now, I'm not this isn't me trying to lead the witness in perception about Roman Abramovich. I'm just trying to catch us up to where we are at the moment. Seemingly did a lot of good. Of course, he's used Chelsea Football Club as a vessel for good in terms of anti-discrimination. He's done say no to hate stuff. He's obviously done a lot of work for anti-Semitism, or to work against anti-Semitism, using Chelsea as a vessel for that, which is all pretty darn good, you'd have to say. While also continuing investing a great deal of money into Chelsea Football Club. Along the way, though, there has been some stories floating around him that he had affiliation with Mr. Putin of Russia, and that perhaps he may have even bought Chelsea Football Club as an instruction coming from the motherland, Russia, which turns out to be nonsense. I'm going to read you an extract from an article. Where should we start? Let's read in for a little bit from the Telegraph, from Sam Wallace's piece. Where now for Roman Abramovich, the man who transformed English football almost 19 years ago, and rose to become the most visible of the Russian oligarchs in a city that came to be known by Kremlinologists as Londongrad. Very funny. He was last seen on the pitch in the Mohammed bin Zayed Stadium in Abu Dhabi, holding the FIFA Club World Cup trophy, acclaimed by the global Chelsea fan base on social media as the world's greatest football club owner. the famous Russian businessman of the 21st century who invested 1.5 billion into making Chelsea one of the biggest European powers of the era, had just completed the full complement of major honours less than 2 decades since he bought the club in West London. So off the bat, he has completed football since he's bought it. He's like completed the set. Also, I wanted to mention as well, in terms of unsavoury football club owners, like I've mentioned, the aforementioned element of he's not out to make money out of Chelsea. He's a super billionaire. Where other billionaires, if you look around the Premier League, the bigger clubs in the Premier League, they are wanting to make money out of their clubs. Look at the Glazers. They bought Manchester United against their own money, and they just try to take money out of it. You know, you could look at FSG at Liverpool, the Kroenkes at Arsenal. In terms of how they utilise their super clubs, that's what they want. And the Americans, like the Kroenkes, FSG and Glazers, they were the leading football club owners that wanted the European Super League. It was Chelsea and Man City that didn't really want it. And lo and behold, Roman Abramovich was the first football club owner to pull out of the European Super League. Let's read on a little bit here. At the same time plaudits were being lavished on Mr. Abramovich, Russian troops were massing on the border of Ukraine. The political, financial, and military realities of Vladimir Putin's fourth term as president were being brought to bear on Western Europe, yet there's still a reluctance to make any association between the Kremlin regime preparing to invade its democratic neighbour and the 55-year-old seemingly 55-year-old man smiling benignly with the latest piece of football silverware in his hand. So that is, of course, linking Putin and Abramovich. Let's read on. This is important. Abramovich has fiercely defended his independence from Putin in the last year. His High Court level case against the publisher HarperCollins and journalist Catherine Belton, author of the book Putin's People, the exhaustive history of the Yeltsin nation was enormous. He sued among many claims over the allegation, which he denied, and Chelsea were brought on the orders of Putin. Yeah, that Chelsea was bought on the orders of Putin, which is a story like, you know, I'm not going to do the accent because that could be offensive. Go to England and buy Chelsea for me. As a vehicle to gain influence in British society, Abramovich's lawyers secured an amendment that in that respect for future additions. Look, right, this is important because sports washing is very, very real. When we look at state-backed clubs like, you know, Qatar's buying PSG, Abu Dhabi buying Manchester City, and, you know, Saudi's buying Newcastle. It's very real with sports washing. You need to understand that English football have opened the doors to money. If you want to talk about like outrage with what's going on in the current political climate over at Russia, England, the United Kingdom, is riddled with Russian money. Like sponsors everywhere. You know, there's talks about all kinds of different governmental things going on with Russian money. It is absolutely crazy. We're not, when people are doing some pearl clutching here, saying, oh, Roman Abramovich, they were, the British economy loved the fact how, a billionaire was coming into southwest London, building Stamford Bridge, putting us on the map. They loved all of that. So, in terms of the Putin's People book, yes, the evidence was like refuted. They had to do a public apology. It wasn't just this, the book Putin's People. Loads of publications, like, you know, news websites, newspapers, they had to all issue public apologies to Roman Abramovich saying, no, this information was incorrect and he was not sent here on the orders of Putin. Upon the settlement of the claim, so this is the book, a statement on behalf of Mr. Abramovich said that his aim at Chelsea has always been, quote, to create world-class teams on the pitch and to ensure the club plays a positive role in all of its communities. In her judgment of the libel action brought to Mr. Abramovich, Mrs. Justice Tibbles noticed that, quote, there was no dispute between the parties, that the claimant's relationship with President Putin is a significant one. Basically, it went on to say, no, there's nothing here between Roman Abramovich and Mr. Putin. So where are we at now? Of course, there's a lot of sweeping statements going on online, social media. A lot of people seeing Russia's doing a questionable, act in the opinion and perspective of many. Well, Chelsea's owner is Russian. He's the reason why we're at war. Like, Roman Abramovich is the only oligarch in the world. When the truth is, it's. I'm not saying he's got nothing to do with Russia at all, because that's his countrymen, but people are suddenly, reacting very strongly. Anyway, the members of parliament, people have been talking that perhaps originally Boris was saying like, oh yeah, Abramovich has been sanctioned for his connections with Russia or some stuff like that. Basically, Roman Abramovich hasn't been in England for years. Now, the story of this, if you've watched my video I did on this before, you'll know the story. I think it's certainly one of my most viewed videos, if not the most viewed one. I spoke about how actually the story goes, Roman Abramovich withdrew his visa application, and he's just, he's become, he became an Israeli citizen, and he's not essentially come back since. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of that, but this is all old news from 4 or 5 years ago, and it's suddenly all surfacing like it happened yesterday morning because they're trying to make links. It's journalism. It's how it works. Boris Johnson said there is limitations or stuff out against Roman Abramovich, which is incorrect. You've got MPs saying that his assets need to be seized in the United Kingdom, including his £150 million house. What is it with assets? Chelsea Football Club? Do they want to do? I mean, this is fanciful. Chelsea Football Club. Would it be seized? I'm going to cite you a tweet from Cy Phillips Sport on Twitter. Obviously, all on top of Chelsea news. Often he's tweeted this. Sources close to Roman Abramovich insist he has done nothing that would make him liable to sanctions. But even if it were to happen, it is understood to be unlikely there would be any impact on Chelsea. Legal experts believe the government would agree on official carve-out of Chelsea. Would agree on an official carve-out of Chelsea from any prospective actions to avoid significant impact on a club that employs hundreds of people and is supported by thousands. Well, supported by millions. That would mean Chelsea could continue as a business, including receiving future broadcast money from the Premier League and UEFA, so they can keep paying staff and continue to paying staff. Yes, that's the sort of good surface of it. Like, look, we're still paying people in the community. We're not taking away jobs. Also, the economy is still getting a massive boost from Chelsea Football Club, one that you don't want to lose. Essentially, if this story came into pass and Roman Abramovich lost Chelsea Football Club, Chelsea, I don't know in terms of ownership how it would be transferred or, delegated or whatever. I'm not sure how that would work. But the point being, Chelsea wouldn't cease to exist. Chelsea is a self-sufficient Euro money-making machine. Now, if we didn't have Roman Abramovich as our owner anymore, it would be, in terms of sporting bonuses or whatever you want to say, it would be frustrating because we wouldn't get oh no, our books are down 150. Oh no, Roman's just put 300 million pounds in again, like he keeps doing. Do you know what I mean? He put 150 million in a couple of years ago just because our books weren't great. You need an owner to do that. Look at the Glazers. They're certainly not doing that. They take money out. They only take money out. But Roman Abramovich has been putting money in. Now, again, it's, before we finish on this next part, I'm not saying Roman Abramovich is a saint. That's been wrongly presented as someone unpleasant. I think personally, if you're a billionaire, if you're an oligarch billionaire, that comes from perhaps the landscape and background that Roman Abramovich has come from, I can't imagine he's a saint. He might be, but I would assume just that there's been allegedly some shady stuff. You got to be careful when you say these things. But I have loved him as a Chelsea owner from what I've seen in terms of the tangible, objective stuff in front of me. His financial involvement, his delight in Chelsea's success, his pure drive to see Chelsea succeed in the sporting landscape and climate, not, just to make money. I like how he pulled out the Super League. I like how he's done loads of charity work over the pandemic, and I like how he has these anti-discrimination campaigns. That's what I've seen. This man, would he want to be a funder of war? I know there's a lot of people talking about Israel and Palestine. I don't think there's any evidence of what's going on, because he's Israeli, of course. Maybe he's funded some aid over there. But I don't think, people have speculated that he's funded weapons and stuff. I don't think there's any evidence of that. From what I've seen, from what there's evidence of, there's going to be a big storm of nothing purely because of what he represents. And what he represents is a lot of Russian money. Right. So finally, I'm going to cite a tweet from Cy Phillips Sport again, who's just tweeted out this morning regarding a quote from Telegraph Football. Roman Abramovich has been spared Russia sanctions despite MPs' claims he should not be allowed to own Chelsea. Chelsea, quote, can be confident for now that Abramovich would use every aspect of his disposal to ensure he's going nowhere. Interesting. So what have we learned? We've learned a lot of what people are saying there. They're worried about this guy who's come from Russia. He's been associated to Putin again, despite all that evidence being refuted. And the publishers who had linked Roman Abramovich to Putin have had to issue public apologies. Not just HarperCollins, the publisher, but loads of news broadcasters as well. This is all available for you to look online if you want to research it yourself. We reflected on what he's done as an owner financially for Chelsea and what he's represented in terms of good causes and charities and stuff. Members of Parliament are on 4 now, have said he needs to have his assets seized, and I guess more sort of the barriers put up for him. Odds are, if any of that does happen, which is very, very unlikely, and he as an owner would back himself to defend against that, Chelsea would still continue as a global superpower, but perhaps without that comfy, security blanket or whatever underneath them, knowing that he could always drop in 100 million, 150 million. Of course, unless another sort of super billionaire rebuys Chelsea with only the intention of making it a winning machine rather than taking money out of it as a business. What do you think, guys? Obviously, really heavy subject, delicate one. I have to remain pretty much on the fence on most things. I just wanted to present the evidence of what we've seen. Of course, I'm not saying that Roman Abramovich is an absolute saint that's been that's going to sue everyone for defamation, but there's clearly been some stuff said about him that's untrue, and that includes perhaps maybe him having Chelsea seized from him. What do you think, though? Comment down below. I want to hear it. Tell me your thoughts. Please do consider subscribing and dropping a like. It means a lot to support the channel. Daily videos, of course. I'd be really delighted to see you back here tomorrow for the next video. So if you've subscribed, make sure that bell's turned on. Alright guys, peace.
You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me baby.